Hey guys, welcome to today's podcast episode. Today we're joined with George. Is it Lewinsky or Lewinsky?
Lewinski, yeah, my teachers in school would often call me Lewinsky. That's the Polish way of saying it. But because I don't know any Polish, I'm a BTEC Polish. Anne always calls me BTEC Polish, but yeah, you can call me Lewinski, bro.
Cool. Yeah, I wasn't too sure like if it. I was like, oh, it must be the Polish way. But George, could you give us a quick breakdown, like who you are, what you do, and we can have a conversation from there.
Yeah, of course, man. So my name's George. I'm the owner of Coach's Corner. What we do is we've got two sections to the business. So we've got a physique coaching side of the business. And we've also got the accelerator, which is the business coaching side of the business. Now, the way that did that cut off for a second there, buddy?
It's all good.
Oh, all
Can
good, all good.
you?
Okay, perfect, perfect. We didn't sure if I cut off there at all. Yeah, so we've got coaches corner, so we've got the physique side of the business, we've got the business side to the business. Now, the way that the physique side works is me and Kev have been working one to one with coaches for a good amount of years now. We understand how they work, how they operate, what they need, what they want, their kind of struggles and the things that kind of hold them back. So on that side of things, it's been quite neat to have several coaches helping to support coaches with their kind of physique related goals. On the accelerator side, which is the business coaching, we work hands-on with coaches, personal trainers, business owners to help them to become better coaches, to run better coaching businesses, to impact more lives, to have more freedom, and to ultimately earn more money, mate. And it's been a massive, massive, massive passion project. I got to be honest with you. When I kind of started out with this mission 7 years ago, I never thought that I'd be sat on a podcast talking about the fact that I'm now business coaching other coaches and other personal trainers. But it's been epic, mate. It's been really, really, really fun. Like I love every minute of it. I love every day of it. And ultimately, yeah, with the business and kind of what we got behind the scenes, it's gone from just me to we've now got like a full team of staff helping out with like different sections and stuff like that. So yeah, man, that's a little bit about me and what I do.
Amazing. There's lots here to dive into, and I think one thing I was gonna say at some point anyway was like you. One thing I think for you that you do really well is you come across very like grounded in the like moment of stuff. You're like okay, like you kind of see the wins and you see like the like you take time to kind of see it all, which I think is very like for me anyway. It's very hard to do. Like I'm always like like stressed, like all of that stuff. So it's really cool. So what did you
Sure,
talking about 7 years ago? Like what did your past background look like? What did your childhood? What did your upbringing look like?
sure, man. Cool, we're going deep. So, in terms of my childhood, man, I had a mixed childhood. So, my mum was absolutely incredible. You know, to cut a long story short, I was pretty much brought up by a single mum, two kids. We were pretty much like living and operating on the breadline. You know, very, very, very poor. You know, and people say that I didn't have much growing up. It was very much a case of we'd worry every single month about like paying the gas and electric bill, and we'd often our entertainment, and this is why I'm so good at talking to people, not to blow my own trumpet, but I know I am, because our evenings would often just be sat chatting because we couldn't afford to have the TV on. Like when I say we were poor, like we were poor, poor. Not even being able to have the fucking TV on, it cost too much money. So that was our upbringing. My dad was like there or thereabouts, but I definitely lacked having like a male role model in my life. And the male role model that I had wasn't exactly the picture perfect dad that you'd expect. He had his own struggles, but essentially because of the things that we kind of experienced and saw and kind of I guess had happened to us by this kind of male role model that's supposed to be supportive and supposed to be providing and all these kind of things, because we didn't really have that. It was very much a case from a very young age that I had to grow up, so to speak, very, very young. And because I had to grow up very, very young, I've always naturally in everything that I've done kind of almost slotted quite nicely into a role where I really enjoy being in charge. I really enjoy being the leader. I really enjoy being a coach. And it was almost this thing kind of from teenage point where I knew that I needed to help other people and that I needed to be a coach, because where I'd always lacked that as a kid, I always kind of thought to myself, right, there's two ways that I can go with this. I can either be a total fuck up and just, spiral and use all of these bad things that had happened negatively, or say, you know what, I've got an opportunity here to kind of change the script and almost like change the Lewinsky name. The Lewinsky name almost was like tarnished, because if you go back generations, there's quite a lot of negative stuff that happened. But for me, it was very much a case of, right, I've got an opportunity to turn this around now. And I almost wanted to be like the fucking, don't even know what I'd describe with this. I wanted to be the person that made the difference. And I think now with Coach's Corner, this is why I've got such a big drive behind me. And our big thing and big ethos was always, let's change the industry for the better. Because I love this industry to pieces. And when I see any kind of form of negativity, it generally makes me sad because this industry changed my life. So in terms of my childhood, mate, that was yeah, I guess that kind of sums up kind of where I've been and where I'm at with stuff. Sorry if you can hear the motorbikes in the background, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And did you find the fitness was fitness the first kind of I know it was for me, I don't know if it was similar, but was fitness the first fitness the first bit where you kind of like had that like moment of like moving forward? Like for me it was like getting into fitness was like, oh, I've actually got control over something, I can actually progress. Like everything else I was like, I'm not making any progress here. But with fitness I was like, I can actually, I don't know if that was similar.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, that was for a point that was my escape. Going to the gym, running, playing golf, playing football. It was just an opportunity for me to work on myself, to let off some steam, to let off some energy, to let off some frustration. And then I think because I'd had kind of things happen to me in my childhood that were quite challenging at times. Then later on as a teenager, where I went deeper into sport, I kind of had like this long list of injuries, like 16 years, it's not 16, 18 years old, bulged a disc in my spine and was like written off for pretty much an entire year. The gym was the thing that was there as I was recovering, getting back to training, getting back to lifting, getting back to looking after my health and fitness. And it's always just been that thing in the background that I just value so, so, so greatly among so many other things. And I think that's why even to today, right now we're essentially running a mentorship where we're working with large groups of coaches, large groups of personal trainers, and my schedule at times can be wild. That's something that I'll never ever ever skip. I'll never skip my training, I'll never skip my walks, I'll never skip my cardio because I value it so greatly, and I think it's such an important element of our lives. It's just one of those things that for me, as soon as I start skipping that, my standards for everything else drops. So yeah, man, it was a massive 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 part of that.
Huge takeaway there for like coaches and business owners. I know when I like personal training, it's easy to kind of slip, like let it slip into the wanting to work more. Like I kind of speak to coaches about this a lot, and then it's like everything else derails. So from like a so 16 to 18, like getting into like what was the kind of your experience? What was your thought process like doing like working at 9 to 5s and that process? Like, how what was that like? What was the lessons and the process
Sure, man.
the history of that?
Yeah, so what actually happened was I went to college, studied like sports science, so sports psychology, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. And my route was that I wanted to become like a golf professional. And being a golf pro, you typically be like touring the world. So you'd either tour Europe or you tour America. That they're like the two tours. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go to America and I'm going to tour. And this was like my dream from when I was a kid. I even put this on my story the other day. Like I'd always wanted to go to America. That was like the whole American dream. And like, oh my God, Arnold and all this stuff. So that was like the thing that I was kind of looking at. And then with the injury, there was a period of time where for 6 months I was unemployed and I felt like an absolute failure. I felt like a bum. I felt like I was just kind of scrounging off of other people, and I absolutely hated that so so much. And that's when I started to go down a little bit of a slippery slope with like partying and fucking all kinds of crap and getting in with the wrong people. And then what happened, mate, is one day I remember laying in bed. No, actually, tell you what the turning point was for me, and when I started getting into work, and then later became a coach, was I remember walking in from a night out. I was living with my brother and my mum at the time, and walked in from a night out, and I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And I went to open the door, and as I went to open the door from getting in from the night out, my brother opened the door, and he just looked at me, and he was like, just shook his head and was like, "What are you doing?" And I remember just feeling this like massive kind of feeling of, okay, I need to turn my life around. I was 19 at that point, so from 18 to 19, I was like, I need to turn my life around. So I started working at Sainsbury's. I started working at Sainsbury's. I worked as a chef at Sainsbury's in the cafe for a year. Here's a funny story. So they made me, and again, I'm not that. This is not off of my cooking skills. This is purely because I'm really bossy. within 3 months, they made me head chef on the weekend. And I was like, why are you making me head chef? There's much better cooks here. They're like, no one's as loud as you are. So I was like, all right, I'll take that. So I was head chef at Sainsbury's for 6 months. Then after doing that for a period of time, I thought, right, okay, Sainsbury's is all right, but I feel like I needed a quote unquote proper job. Not knocking Sainsbury's. I was like, I feel like I need a proper job. So I started working as a greenkeeper, which is basically what they do is they cut hedges, they cut down trees, they cut grass, they look after the land. And I did that for 4 years, mate. And after a year, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. But I got so comfortable doing that. I was working from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I got so comfortable doing that. I was just like, I knew I needed to get out of there. But it felt like, I'd be shoveling mud or shoveling sand or something. And I remember just having this thought in my head of like, you always said you were going to be a coach. You always said you're going to be helping people. You always said that this is what you're going to do. And you're not doing that. You're not fulfilling that dream. I think I got to maybe 20, I think I was like 22 at that point where it was like starting to click in my head, like, right, you need to fucking stop doing this. And that's when I started doing my kind of personal training course. And alongside that, because all of my friends knew that I loved the gym, I was into my fitness, I could get in shape, I was starting to put it on my Instagram and started to document the journey. And this is why I always say to people, document, don't create. Just show what you're doing. Because if you can prove that you can do something and then you can prove to other people that you can do it for them too, then that's the basis of the business, right? So I started documenting that a lot. And I had people inquiring for my coaching. And I was like, I'm not even a fucking coach. Why are you, like, I remember thinking to myself, like, why are you inquiring me? I'm not even a coach yet. But I thought, oh, okay, well, there's something here, I can help some people. So help some friends for free while I was doing the greenkeeping, and my life was just one big tired mess, mate. I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every single day. I'd do check-ins with clients from 5 a.m. till 6 a.m. I'd then eat my breakfast. I'd travel to work. I'd work from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'd then go to the gym from 3 until 5 because I thought I was trained by JP and thought I had to train for 2 hours. I'd go to the gym from 3 until 5. I'd come home and have my meal. I'd study for an hour. I'd watch TV for an hour and a half. Then I'd then go to bed. And that was literally my life for a year. And when people say to me, oh, I don't have time and all that kind of stuff, I can relate to what you're saying so much, but you probably do have time. And then that's then what kicked on the career of then being a coach, became a personal trainer, worked in the gym, and then the rest is history, man.
Amazing. What what was the kind of like thought process in terms of getting yourself away from that position? Like you're comfortable, you have what were the kind of questions going through your head? Like I don't know if you would, like if you had someone like a friend or a coach listening to this and they're like, I'm kind of doing a little bit of coaching on the side, but I kind of like, I feel quite comfortable working alongside, like how do you know if you should, like what kind of questions would you ask to know what, to figure out what you want to do and go all in on it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've actually got goosebumps thinking about this because I literally remember the turning point of it as well. It was very much a case of in my earlier years, because I'd had some struggles, it was always why me? Why is this happening to me? Why have I gone through this hardship? Why are we poor? Why can't we watch the TV? Why do we have to share the same fucking bath water? Like why? Like why is all this shit happening? And I felt that way for such a long time, and I felt like a victim for such a long time that something had to change in order for it to be flipped the script. And what I started seeing is because I was watching because I was really into bodybuilding back then. Because I was watching lots of bodybuilders, I was watching a lot of like athletes, I was watching people like, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo or, Roger Federer, or like I really like I've always been obsessed with sport and watch these kind of things. And I started changing that narrative to like, why not me? Why can't I be a coach? Why can't I help people? Why can't I be successful? Like why can't I be one of these guys who is able to fly around the world wherever they want to go and help people out and, talk at events and, why not me? They've all got a pulse. We're all flesh and, flesh and blood. We can all, we've all got the same amount of fucking hours in a day. We've all got the same amount that we can work. Like, why don't just fucking try? So I think I almost started to go into this kind of weird, like hustle mode, I guess, a little bit in my head and was like, right, if I just work my arse off for 12 months, like what can I actually achieve here? And I think for anyone kind of listening to this, kind of thinking about like, moving up echelons within their career or whatever it may be, I think it was just this hunger and desire and almost, for me, mate, it was the change of respect. What I mean by the change of respect is I felt like I wasn't respecting myself, my potential in my life by allowing myself to get comfortable. And I knew that, and I started to realize, I thought my sole purpose and my sole goal in life was to be happy. And I started to realize that actually that's bullshit. The sole goal in life and purpose in life is not to be happy. is actually to build fulfillment and to impact others' lives. Because when you build fulfillment and impact others' lives, that is when by default you can then build true happiness. Happiness in my eyes is chasing dopamine. You know, if I'd gone right, my goal in life was to be happy, I wouldn't be on this podcast. I'd probably be in some fucking rave somewhere thinking, oh yeah, I'm so happy. No, I'm not fucking happy. It's not real. I'm drunk or I'm just partying. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not real. But true happiness is when you know you've done the work, you've put in the hours, you're impacting people's lives, you're making a difference, you're pushing yourself, and you're doing all of the hard shit that you're avoiding and brushing under the carpet and actually fucking addressing it, mate. Sorry, I went on a bit of a ramble there. Did
Yeah,
that actually answer your
yeah,
question?
yeah. That's
Okay, class.
powerful. It's almost like having it inside in you, and to know like what is it you want to do, and just having the courage to step in. And I think like you might be similar, but like one thing I think about, like what's the worst case that happens if you go all in on this thing for like 5 years, is you just default, and
Mm.
and like in 5 years time you end up doing exactly what everyone else are doing anyway, by just having a normal 9 to 5. So like the worst case isn't so bad. What are the
Probably.
like big lessons you've picked up from your upbringing? Like what would you say are like the like quote unquote unfair advantages that you mentioned, communication and speaking? Like what else do you think like Sainsbury's, like your childhood kind of like geared you up towards to do well in coaching and business?
Sure. I think the unfair advantage that I've always had is because not to go too deep in it, but because I have had a lot of kind of hard times in my childhood, seen a lot of stuff, experienced a lot of stuff myself, like with my dad and all that kind of stuff. I feel like it built this kind of resilience in me, in the sense of I said this to a client recently who's on the physique side of Coach's Corner. And he laughed and he said, to be fair, mate, same. And I said, if I'm ever like on prep or if I'm doing like a photo shoot or if I'm really pushing for diet, when I'm doing cardio, I love it. I'm thriving. I'm like, I'll be on the treadmill like laughing or on the stairmasters laughing, because for me, I almost now associate when you experience hardship and when you experience pain and when you experience difficult things, they're the things that give you the opportunity to grow. So I think my unfair advantage is my relationship with hard stuff. Don't get me wrong. That's not to say that I'm like perfect at everything. Before this morning, I was sorting out an email automation and it started to annoy me because I couldn't figure it out. But I'm going to go back to it and I'm going to figure it out. But my point is, I think the unfair advantage is because I've had a lot of shitty things happen. It's almost like, well, you know, if I can do that, I can do this. If I can handle that, I can handle this. And I think that a lot of people that I've found that can tend to struggle is that because they're almost coming into a new project or a new task or a new job, or maybe someone's trying to become like a PT to go to an online coach or grow their business or whatever it may be, they expect things to just like always be perfect and always work out and always go well. I think the only guarantee really in business is that you're going to have an absolute shit ton of failures, and the only way you can really truly fail as a business owner is if you just completely quit on it. I'm sure I can look back at my career and think to myself, there's been some pretty hard moments. Like I remember coming back from a holiday. I'd been away for 2 weeks and I didn't work one entire week of it. And I think it was time with the time of the year, plus the trip, plus with where we were at with business. By this point, we were a big business. But I remember looking at my WhatsApp and we had 18 people leave at the same time. Mate, I wanted to have a heart attack. Literally, it was crippling. I felt like my whole fucking world had just fallen down. I was like, what the fuck? And I was going through and there's like all these different lists of reasons. And I was like, this was about, for context, this was like 3 years ago. And I remember looking at that, just thinking, "Oh my fucking god, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to pay the rent. Like, I've lost all my clients. Everyone thinks I'm a dick. Like, oh my god." But I think that when you go through those moments and you're kind of able to give yourself a little bit of context and be like, "Look, it's not the end of the world. It's fine. I still have these skills. I still have these hands. I still have this brain. I still know what I need to be doing." You kind of almost reason with yourself and go, "It's probably going to be okay."
Yeah, amazing. And it's always so funny. Like anything like that, you kind of look back for like 6 months down the line, 2 3 years down the line. You're like, okay, why was I even stressing? Like, it works out fine.
Yeah.
Moving into the
So true, man.
into the coaching space, like a few big ones here for coaches. Like, um, I feel coaches often can feel a bit like an imposter in terms of coaching. Sometimes, like the coaches I speak to, like I don't actually know, like I've done my personal training course, but like, what, like that doesn't really actually teach me how to coach. So like, what is good coaching? Like, what does it actually look like and mean to you in your business and your values?
Yeah, great question, man. So first of all, to touch on the imposter thing, I think I wish that doctors or whoever invented imposter syndrome called it imposter experience instead, because syndrome almost sounds like someone's got like something wrong with them. But having an experience of feeling like an imposter is so normal, man. It's so normal. Like the way I see it is, if someone says that to me, I go, "Congratulations, you've earned the right to feel like an imposter. That means you're growing. That means you're doing something. You're building something. Like, well done. That's class. Now let's understand, right, what is it that making you feel like an imposter, and is there anything that we're avoiding here?" But in terms of like what true coaching is, mate, that's a fantastic question, and I'm going to try not to talk for an hour on this, but I think it's understanding the results relationship bell curve, right? So on one side of the bell curve, you've got a relationship with the client, and on the other side, you've got the results. Now, if you understand that and if you master those two elements, you will become a great coach. It really is that simple. Because if you've got a fantastic relationship with a client, but they're just not achieving the result, you're going to feel like a rent a friend. If on the other side of that, you're getting a fantastic result for a client, but you've not really got much relationship with them, you don't know them that well, you don't know their family, you don't know their backstory, you don't know their life, then they're going to go, okay, I've got this great result, but I don't really feel like I'm doing this for the coach, or I don't feel like I'm that accountable to the coach, or I don't feel like I've know the coach that well, or can trust them that well, or share certain kind of level of information. Then they're going to get to a point where they achieve the result and go, oh, well, that's it now. You know, I had a client join on board called Lauren. Shout out to Lauren if you listen to this. Several months ago, and when I kind of went away, set her up, built the plan. This is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. Because I'd listened to her and understood like what she needed, what she wanted, where she'd been, what she tried, and then gave that plan that I felt suited to herself. The first thing she texted back, he said, "This makes me want to really make you proud." And I was like, amazing. That's how we know that we've nailed this setup. That's how we know that we've like got off to a good start with this kind of coaching journey, is that the client feels seen, they feel heard, they feel understood. You've listened to their wants, you've listened to their needs. And another thing I think with great coaching, mate, is not being afraid to address the elephant in the room. So what I mean by that, right, is addressing the elephant in the room is this is painful for a lot of people because they don't have the confidence to do it for themselves. But a great example of that is one of our best ever clients on the physique side of the coaching. He lost 85 pounds, completely changed his entire life. And on the first call that we had, I could tell that there was something that he was kind of holding back on, wasn't really like comfortable sharing certain information, seemed like quite withdrawn. I remember just like slowing down the call and I was like, right, let me push my pen and paper to one side. Let me push my notes to one side. Let me take my coaching hat off and actually talk to you as a fucking human being here and like reason with you. And I said to him, I was like, look, the doctors had told this client that if he didn't lose weight, because he was very overweight, if he didn't lose weight, then going into his 40s, there was a risk that he wasn't going to be around for his son. He had like a young boy. His boy was 5 years old and he wanted to play football with him. And he got to a point where he couldn't play football with him because he was so unfit and so overweight that he literally couldn't run around a football pitch with his son. And the doctor said to him, like, look, if you don't lose weight now, there's going to be some serious repercussions and you're not going to see your son grow up. And I just said to him, I was like, look, Adam, I'm going to ask you a really painful question, but this is going to give you all the motivation you need. I said, how does it feel to you realizing that your son might have to grow up idolizing another man? I said that to him and he was almost in tears. He was like, mate, no one's ever said that to me, but I'm so grateful you said that because now I've got that in my head and I've realized that we need to make this fucking work. And he's lost 85 pounds and he recently ran a marathon for the first time in his life, which is fucking incredible. And I think that it was almost having the bravery to be like, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room here. Like this needs to be said. Someone needs to say this, otherwise, if no one says it and that realization isn't there, we're gonna struggle here. And it's the same thing for business, buddy. I'm sure you've worked with clients where you look at something and you realize that something needs to be said and it's a hard conversation. And I think the ability to hold space for someone and have hard conversations in coaching is absolutely vital because that's why your clients are there. They need that guiding light. They need that person to hold them accountable and you know pull them up on their bullshit and be like, look, man, you said you wanted this and you're doing that. Come on, I want to help you here. You know, I give a shit about you. I'm saying this because I fucking care about you and because I want you to do well. So to answer your question, mate, I think good coaching is addressing the elephant in the room, understanding the results relationship bell curve, and really being in it within your clients, like understanding them on a deeper level and kind of holding them accountable to the big thing that they're actually there for.
Yeah, I got goosebumps thinking about that. Like when you mentioned that question, that's really, really powerful. The idolization side of things, and I think for like it seems like a lot of coaches maybe get into it. I know for me anyway, like you get into coaching at quite a young age, like 18, 19, like early 20s, and it probably sways more towards bell curve like when a friend side of things in terms of not having these uncomfortable conversations, but then it like you need to kind of like move past it sometimes. How do
Yeah,
you
definitely, definitely.
how do you know when you were like, I don't know, I think this will be interesting. Like, how do you now, or how did you track your like success, I guess, as a coach, and how would you know if you're a good coach, or like how would you know if you're doing a good job with a client?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think like something that we do when we start any kind of client out is I'll tend to block it out usually within either a 6 month time frame or a 12-month time frame. So by this time next year, how would you like to look? How would you like to feel? Like what would you like your life to look like? And then we block it down into like smaller chunks into say 6 months and 3 months. I think ultimately, if you can help that client, let's put it this way, right? If you get to the point where at that 6 month mark, at that 9 month mark, at that 12-month mark, you've got that client shouting from the rooftops about you, they've achieved the result, they're feeling fantastic, they've achieved everything they wanted to achieve, they're kind of singing your praises within check-ins, a really good sign. And I wouldn't use this as a complete dictator because a lot of people just aren't comfortable on camera, but I work with a lot of coaches, so people are typically comfortable on camera. But if someone's getting to the point where they're like, can I record your testimonial? That's when you know you've done a fucking good job. And one thing I will say to anyone listening to this is don't expect your clients to jump and do that because most people feel nervous to do it. But that for me is usually quite a good indicator. But what I would say in terms of like knowing that you've done a good job, I think that as long as you've made sure that you've achieved said goal that was laid out, it's almost, how do I explain this in a better way? You know, when someone's joining on board to a coach or any service and they're thinking, right, is this going to work? How long is it going to take? How hard is it going to be? I think it's just getting that client to that particular goal in the least stressed manner that you possibly can for that individual, the fastest way that you possibly can without it being like a complete train wreck, and actually getting to a point whereby when you finish the coaching journey, they've then got autonomy. That's usually when you know that you've done a good job. So what autonomy would look like, as an example, let's say someone was joining board to coach Corner Physique, they're working alongside Kev and they were kind of getting that coaching experience. It would usually be a case of, right, we've gone through dieting phases, reverses, maintenance, building muscle, potentially even gone through intuitive blocks, which I think can be very valuable for a lot of clients. Getting to a point where you step back from the coaching experience altogether and we touch base in 6 months and you still maintain that result, if not more, that's a really, really, really good sign, you know? And this is me just being completely transparent with this question, and this may make you laugh. We did a launch at the start of the year, and we reached out to a lot of clients we've worked with over the last year. Like, hey mate, how you doing? Just thought I'd reach out to you. We've got this offer going on, etc., etc. No one needed a coach because they were all achieving results. I was like, I'm really happy for you, but it would have been nice to work with some of you guys. But no one needed a coach anymore because they gained autonomy, and that's where I was like, you know what? Actually, this makes me really happy because it means that people have carried on doing the things we told them to do, and they've carried on achieving results. But to me, that's good coaching, man. That's good coaching. It's getting to that point where months after coaching, they're still doing what you'd laid out.
Amazing. And how do you, what kind of steps would you follow now in terms of like, would you still recommend it? Like, how would you set up like a daily, weekly, like kind of touch points? What kind of stuff do you look for? Um, what kind of stuff would a coach would you say to your guys to look for to know? Okay, like this guy is like, you know, this guy's doing good. This guy probably isn't. Like what? Like I know when I first started out, like it's quite hard to read between the lines in terms of like who's doing well, who like, and you just end up. What I did was I just ended up spending the same amount of time on everyone, and then some people needed
Mm.
it, some people like probably needed less.
Yeah, that's a good question. We built something called the willingness audit. So what the willingness audit is it's like consultation, but it's a touch deeper when you are actually setting a client up. So you'll kind of get the consultation, then you ask a series of questions. So like, for example, are you willing to complete X amount of steps? Are you willing to complete cardio? If so, how much? Are you willing to do X, Y, and Z with meal plans? Whatever it may be. And once you've got that willingness audit, ask them within the setup, like what level of communication do you feel like would be best for you? Would you rather little and often? Would you rather these big, big check-ins and all that kind of stuff? And that will change as someone goes through the coaching with you. After say 2 months, if someone's feeling a bit more kind of experienced or kind of knows a bit more what they need to be doing, maybe they previously said to you, oh, if you can just text me each morning, and you're thinking, oh, that's a lot of communication. And then 4 weeks in, they're like, oh, I'm all right now. I feel more confident. Like, I'm okay. I don't need that. So in answer to your question, I think in terms of kind of knowing someone's doing a good job or knowing that you're kind of being as supportive as you can, I think it's just like making sure that how do I explain this? So like when someone's doing a check-in with you, right? The way I see it is, let's say I'm like recording a Loom video and I'm like sending that across. For a lot of our clients, that's gonna be like the highlight of their week. So I want to make it entertaining. I want to make it fun. I want to make it enjoyable. I want to make it educational. I want to make it something where someone would want to, because we would get texts from clients doing this kind of stuff all the time, would want to like dive off whilst working their 9 to 5 in the office and go, oh, I'm just going to the toilet, and then like want to watch a check-in because it's actually going to be fun for them. I think that's usually like a good sign. What I'd also say is if you're finding that like for coaches who are kind of sending across their check-ins and their clients not getting back to them within like 24 or 48 hours, or they've not watched it or they're delaying it, usually I'd actually watch your own check-ins. I don't think many coaches do that. Watch your own check-in, right? If this was my coach, what areas can I improve on? How structured am I being? Does this make sense? Is this clear? Is this bulletproof in the sense of someone can come away from this and they've got like 2 to 3 clear actionable points? So I think like with the coaching journey, it's just a continual refinement of the way you're delivering it, a continual refinement of the relationship with your client, with where they're at. I've got to give you an example of that, right? With Coach's Corner Physique, Kev owns that. I own Accelerator, so the business side, he owns Physique. But I've got some OGs that I still help. One of my clients has been with me for 3 years. She knows because she's been with me for 3 years, our check-ins don't need to be 10, 15 minutes long anymore because they just don't. She knows what she needs to be doing. So if I give her those few minutes, we have a chat with her. I ask her about, her mum and her dad and her family and her dog, and like we have these conversations. I know that she, is really into cricket and she watches, cricket down Chesterton. So it's just those little things like that. And I think as you build that relationship with someone and as you're kind of in the coaching journey with them, it's just understanding the kind of bell curve between how well are we doing here and do we need to refine things, or does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you? I was speaking to someone recently, and I think this is where it probably gets fixed by just having the well thought out onboarding call. I often find like this is just relating to me when I was coaching, but I often find sometimes what can end up happening. What ended up happening for me was you end up warning and you end up trying to push people a bit harder, especially when you're really into your training and they want to go sometimes. So you kind of need to find a balance between between both. What
Totally, mate. Totally. I think.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. What are the some of the mistakes maybe you see coaches making at the moment, like, or you hear when you jump on like consultation calls, when you get people jumping on board maybe from mentorships, and like, yeah, what are some of the mistakes you see at the moment in the coaching space?
I would honestly say paralysis by overanalysis. That's probably one of the biggest mistakes I see throughout business, whether it be content, conversations, coaching clients. It's like genuinely just a coach feeling like, right. I put a reel up about this the other day, and it was like this mental list of, right, DMs, sales, content, reels, editing, client communications, programming, like all these different things. And people are just like, oh my God, there's so much stuff to think about. So I think because of that overwhelm, there's just this massive, massive, massive procrastination. And then what ends up happening is a coach is almost kind of sat there like, what do I need to be doing? Like when you go from working 9 to 5 in an office or a PT or something like that, you have a job, you have like starting time, ending time. This is your lunch. This is when you do this. Da 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 da. We're almost like taught this through school, right? You come to school at this time. You have this lesson with this teacher at this time, and then as soon as you become an online coach and run your own business, it's like shit. I'm my own boss now. Got about a million things I need to be doing, and the days end up being like very, very reactive. So I think one of the biggest mistakes I see is coaches being quite reactive within their day because they almost feel like being busy is safety. Because if they're busy, I'm productive. I'm doing work. I'm making content. I'm talking to clients. I'm keeping myself busy. You shouldn't be aiming to keep yourself busy. You don't get points for the amount of hours you work. You get points for the work that's actually completed. So I think, mate, one of the best things that a coach could do is really, really, really sit down for a few hours, headphones on, don't talk to anyone, don't look at WhatsApp and go, right, what are my problems? What am I struggling with? What are the things that need to change within the business? What's working well? What's not working well? Where do I even want to go? Like, what is it that I want my business to become? We've got some coaches that only ever want to work with 30 clients and they want to do like a high ticket program. Fantastic. We need to build you a great offer. We need to build you an irresistible offer. We need to look at your content and make sure that it's reaching the right people. Okay, that's going to be our focus point. Let's work on that. We've got other coaches that want to do the polar opposite. I want to work low ticket. I want to work with, lots of mums, lots of dads, whatever it may be. Okay, fantastic. Let's look at the way that you're delivering that service. Is that service completely tailor-made and suited to mums? If there's a few things here that are becoming quite difficult, right, how do we change that? Are we going to change the way that you deliver your check-ins? Are we going to change the way that we onboard a client? Is this overwhelming for your client? So I think in terms of like mistakes that coaches make, I think it's trying to focus so much on doing stuff and doing more and working longer hours and be like, go, 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 and less time to step back and be like, right, where am I heading? What do I want? What do I need? Where are things at? And I think that's, not to plug it, but also to plug it. That's why Coach's Corner, the first thing that we want to figure out is clarity. Like it's currently June. The first thing asked in the call, where do you want to be by Christmas? Okay, cool. Now we know that, we can actually plan for that. Because if I don't know where you want to be by the end of the year, I can't give you advice because I don't know what you want from your business. So yeah, I think like if a coach is listening to this right now, they want to take something away from this podcast, think to yourself, when was the last time you had a day off just to think? Because honestly, I think we live in a world where it's so fast paced. We've got like quick TikToks and reels and snippets and stuff like this. Give yourself a few hours, put on a nice relaxing podcast or not podcast, playlist with like no words in it. Get some L-tyrosine, grab a coffee and just use your brain and just think through your problems. And I think that when coaches can do that, you're going to answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah, this is literally like something I'm so passionate about because it's like one of my biggest like pain points and like lessons from like 4 or 5 years ago. Like what I've realized as well is like I suppose like personal training and any kind of coaching, really you kind of sell the lifestyle and the aspirational figure. And if you're like looking burnt out and you kind of hate life, it's really it makes your life much even harder, and everything kind of snowballs like in a bad way from there.
Yeah, mate. Most PTs and coaches and stuff are like addicted to caffeine, and their sleep is shit, and they're stressed, and they're like, yeah, so we're going to talk about stress management today, and they're just stressed out of their eyeballs. So yeah, man, I honestly like my best ideas come when I've had a day off, 100%. 100%. And realistically, the main reason that people struggle with that kind of stuff is there's like really a list of 3 things that causes people to avoid things or have poor time management. And it's going to be anxiety, boredom, or rebelliousness. If you're anxious about a task because you're not very good at it, you'll put it off. If something's boring you because it's not getting you return on investment, then you're not going to want to do it. And if someone's told you to do something but you don't believe it to be true, you'll probably rebel against it. So if we understand it's either rebelliousness, anxiety, or boredom, we can start to address the root cause. Perfect example, I automated my business 2 years ago. I wish I automated it 4 years ago. And when looking at automations, because I didn't understand it, you don't need that, that's crap. And then I learned it and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I now understand if you open one of my emails, I can send you a different email. I now understand when I onboard a client, you can get everything in 1 second. I now understand like all these different lists of things. So yeah, it's an interesting and deep topic, but I completely agree with that, mate. I think it all kind of boils back to the desire of being busy and the want to stay on top of it and stuff like that. So yeah, I think a lot of coaches would benefit from having some more thinking time for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like not something that many people like, especially me, like don't really realize how much you need it. And it always feels like as a business owner, I always feel like the world's ending. Like you mentioned, there's always like all these problems, but like there always will be something. So you can't always, you'll never get to the end of your to-do list. You just need to like learn to find balance in the two.
Yeah,
We
totally.
Yeah, I find an interesting conversation here around like maybe like without kind of going, hopefully without maybe like going off on anyone, but like more bodybuilding style, the bodybuilding space in particular. I find like from my conversation, like selling is quite uh like frowned upon, if that's the right word, or like in general in the coaching space. I think
Yeah,
it's quite, it can be. How do you
yeah.
view sales? Like, how do you actually sell stuff without coming across like sleazy or without coming across like, I don't know, sell out, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So, I used to think selling was sleazy, and then I realised that selling is actually human. We sell every day without realising it. Selling is just persuasion. And at the end of the day, if you truly believe in your service and if you truly believe in your program and that it can change somebody's life, you're doing them a disservice if you do not offer that. Funnily enough, I literally had a DM conversation with somebody last night and we were chatting back and forth. And he said to me, I really struggle with DMs. I don't reach out to anybody. I don't talk to anybody. I said, okay, cool. I said to him, think about it this way, right? Imagine you were a personal trainer. And he was like, oh, I used to do that. I was like, oh, there you go. I was like, imagine you're a personal trainer and every day you've got duct tape over your mouth. And he just laughed. And I was like, that's what you're doing on your Instagram if you don't talk to people. Because at the end of the day, the way that you build a business is by talking to people and making connections. And ultimately, I think so many people are afraid that, oh, I don't want to come across too salesy. You know, I don't want to be like spam people in DMs. You don't have to spam anyone. You don't have to sell anything. The way I see it is, do you know the acronym ABC, always be closing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've changed that to my clients. I was like, don't worry about always be closing, always be connecting. If you're always connecting with people online, you're building rapport, you're building connections. You know, a fantastic book for that is How to Win Friends and Influence People. You know, I can honestly say to you right now, mate, that the reason that the business has been so successful and that it's been so well is because I want to know everyone on my Instagram. Like, I literally want to know everyone on my Instagram. I want everyone to have had a conversation with me, spoken to me, built some rapport with them, got to know them. If they don't want my coaching, cool. Maybe we could meet up for a coffee and have a chat and I can make a friend. Cool. Or if they're out and out, oh, I'm working with this coach, sweet, that's fine. I'll just, you know, I'll move on the conversation. If someone's enjoying the content, watching the stories, you know, liking posts, whatever, just reach out. Thank you. Really appreciate it. You know, we've got this thing you may enjoy. So I think it definitely, and like you said there, for a lot of bodybuilders, we have a lot of people that struggle with that when they join on board. We actually had one of our clients, won't name his name because I don't know if he'd want this information on here, but one of our clients who is a bodybuilder who joined on board a few weeks ago, I was like, try this in DMs. I was like, try this. I was like, it's not salesy, it's not anything like that, but just give it a shot. And he was like, all right, I'll give it a try. Booked in 8 calls in 1 week because he wasn't talking to anyone. And because he wasn't talking to anyone, there was all these people sat on his Instagram that wanted his help, but he was too afraid to fucking talk to them. And he broke down that barrier and went, right, I'm going to try it and see how it goes. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that someone doesn't reply to my message. So what? So he did it. 8 calls. I was like, mate, that's what happens when you actually make an effort of talking to people. So yeah, I think with the fear behind sales, it's a very real fear. But understand that sales is human. You know, you sold me onto this podcast. I mean, you didn't, but do you know what I mean? You were like, do you want to come on a podcast? Yeah, go on then. That's sales. I sold my girlfriend into being in a relationship with me. You know, she's probably better looking than I am, but I was just like, you know, had a bit of a chat with her, and then now we're in a relationship. I sold her into the relationship. Sales is everywhere, bro. It's absolutely everywhere. And I think once we understand that and realize that it's normal and it's human, it breaks down that barrier behind it.
Yeah, for sure. And then like what ends up happening, I guess, is like if you're not aware of it and you're not like, what ends up happening is you just end up like kind of winging it a little bit and you just end up doing whatever. Whereas if you're aware, like, oh, like any, like, you know, someone's like, if you don't do it, and I guess you can end up going on sales calls or consultations for coaches, and they're like, someone might, you know, like they'll be like, oh, I want a low ticket program, I want to do this, and you just end up trying to do everything. Whereas if you, I don't know if that makes sense, but like you can end up getting distracted. Otherwise, if you know like anyone is trying to sell at any time, it makes it a lot easier.
Definitely. There was something I want to add to that, actually. I think that for a lot of people who are naturally a bit more introverted, and you probably wouldn't think this because I'm a chatbox, but I used to have big social anxiety, like huge. I didn't really know how to talk to anyone. If you're that kind of person, why not just encourage people to reach out to you more often? You know, why not put something on your page? I'm looking for an opinion on this. I'm looking for places to travel. You know, what's your opinion on this whey protein? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Like, you know, a great example of that is, let's say someone watching this who likes football. Right, what do we reckon the score's going to be? And then reach out. Is that really what you think? Start a conversation there. Like, it doesn't. You're not coming onto Instagram just trying to sell to as many people as you physically can. Like, that's not the game here. You're ultimately just, you know, building rapport with people. And I think that, you know, if people are afraid of that, that's one thing they can use. Another thing that can be used is more of like a this or that. So an example, maybe something along the lines, hey, whatever the name is, next message down could be something along the lines of, really appreciate you dropping a follow. That's awesome. Are you looking for more kind of fat loss based content or more muscle building content? And then straight away, if they've responded to that, you know what they want, you know why they're there. Oh, okay, if you like that kind of stuff, maybe you'll like this, and then send them a free resource and then just back off and then come back. How did you find it? You know, I think it's a lot simpler than people realize that it is. It's just actually having a few things you can use.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Where do you see the coaching space, the fitness coaching space, like heading towards over the next like 5-6 years with AI, with everything kind of coming along? Like, where do you see it being? Like, do you see? I can remember getting bombarded with ads a few years ago, like saying personal training is dead. Like, what's the where do you see it heading over the next few years?
Yeah, good question, man. So I actually answered this question in Marbella, funnily enough. One of my clients asked this while we were doing our presentation. And what I said was, was like more people than ever over the next 5 years are going to crave human connection because we're seeing a lot more automations, because we're seeing a lot more AI. Businesses that aren't using AI or aren't using any form of automation will get left behind because it's so powerful, and because if it's utilized correctly, it can save you a hell of a lot of time and kind of, can even help you book calls, for goodness sake. It's crazy. But big but, because a lot more of us are kind of noticing it and being aware of it, and especially since everything that went down with like the lockdowns, all that kind of stuff, a lot more of us are working from home. A lot more of us are sat behind a screen. A lot more of us aren't meeting up with others as much. So I really, really, really think if there's one thing I'd say over the next like maybe 5 to 10 years within the industry, we're already starting to see it happen. I think there's going to be a lot more coaches and mentorships and mentors hosting in-person events, a bigger drive on community, a bigger drive on meetups, a bigger drive on in-person. Not necessarily say that it's going to flip on its head and suddenly all the online coaches are going to go back into the gym, but more so, all of those online coaches that have got online clients can be like, right, let's bring them together. Let's do in-person events. Let's do workshops. Let's do meets, all of that kind of stuff. So personally, dude, that's what I can see. I can see AI getting so crazy that here's something, right? This may blow some minds. I actually saw with my own eyes last week somebody close on a coaching call, and the closer was a robot. It was AI. They closed a call. That is insane. Like, what the hell? Like, I saw that. I was like, okay, that's scary. So that's just to give you a context of like how advanced AI can be. So if you're listening to this, I'm not using any automations or any AI. Look into it, because that's something that we've definitely advised our clients to be looking at. But a lot more in-person stuff. A lot more in-person stuff. People need human interaction. It's I think it's going to boom the next few years for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think this is it's a powerful takeaway in terms of the in-person events, because coaches are probably similar. Like if they weren't masterminds before, if they're like done before stuff before, they're like, oh, like I value the in-person stuff, or I value one-to-one time, and it's probably the same for their clients. Amazing. In
Yeah.
terms of like the content side of things now, like kind of people watching your content going through it, one big thing for you is just comes across very authentic. You can kind of pick up like different sides of your like passions of your personality. You've got the golf, you've got the deeper like quotes and lessons and stuff with and then the funny stuff. Like how do you actually go about like actually planning and creating your content at the minute?
Yeah, good question, man. Good question. So, in terms of like planning and creating it, I think that there are a few things that I'll be looking at. So, one of the things I will look at is I will look out for trends. A really easy way to look out for trends, as an example. So, if you go on the Instagram algorithm, the TikTok algorithm, or the YouTube algorithm, they all are a little bit different, and this is why I think it's worthwhile testing. So, if you typed into TikTok arm workout and you scroll through a few videos, there'd be some viral videos in there. So you can go, okay, well, this has gone viral on TikTok. Let me try that and see how that works. So that's an element of planning content. I'll do the same thing on YouTube. I'll type in like, six pack abs, or build your business, or scale your business, or earn an extra 5K or whatever. And I'm like, what are these guys talking about? And what's working, what's not working, and what can we kind of almost emulate? So I will do a little bit of research. That's one element of planning it. Another element as well is I will often spend a period of time testing. I'm currently testing a lot of stuff and posting several times a day. But it's also important to understand that with looking at different platforms, with looking at what's working, with testing different things, a lot of coaches get caught up on it's all about likes, it's all about views, it's all about that kind of stuff. These things are important. However, you also want to think about, right, what content is selling your coaching and what's just going to get loads of people like spamming the like button. Because some of our most successful content ever, in terms of people reaching out and booking calls, has genuinely got like 10 likes. And we've had other pieces of content, like, great example, right? If I post a picture of me and Lauren, like, okay, here's the best example I can give you. If I post a picture of me and Lauren, 300 likes. Oh my God, amazing. And I'll just put the caption of, I don't know, me and my missus or something. Oh yeah. And then imagine if people went, okay, it's all about likes. I'm just going to post me and Lauren 24/7. Your business would fucking collapse, because you're not actually providing any value, you're not helping anybody out, you're not directing anybody to book a call. So that's another thing to bear in mind. But I guess a final note on that in regards to like planning content is I've found, and it's quite ironic this, that coaches and personal trainers whose every single post is selling, call to action, link in bio, DM me the word. If every single post is that, it actually does the opposite effect because someone sees your name pop up and they go, "Oh, they're going to be selling to me." If, however, and this is something that I've been testing, if you scroll down my page, I'm not sold for ages because I'm like, I want to become the king of the hill. If you become the king of the hill, provide so much value, so much help, don't gatekeep information, give good shit out for free, and actually like genuinely listen to what your audience want and figure out what it is that they're looking for and what it is that they're struggling by asking your clients. And this has been really nice actually. With the last 30 days of testing, we've just like given lots of stuff out. We've genuinely had people DM us directly and go, just wanna say, loving your content at the moment, really helping me out. Oh, amazing! What bit's been helping you out? Oh, this, and this. It's a conversation starter. So I guess what I'd say in terms of planning content is, don't be afraid to go, okay, right, I'm actually going to give in public and sell in private for a period of time. I think that works phenomenally well. That's actually a little nugget that I give some people. Try and focus more of your attention on give in public, sell in private. Your content is more for building connections with other people, helping people, showcasing what you can do. Yeah, of course, share wins and stuff like that. And of course, sometimes you are going to sell in your content because you're going to have to market within your content. But if your main focus is give in public, aka your posts, and sell in private, aka DMs, you'll be a lot more successful.
Yeah, incredible. Because like I find the same thing. Um I find the same thing. Like you can post any kind of like stupid meme on it, like online. Like a coach can do this, and like they'll get loads of likes on it. And it's like, how many of these people are like 15-year-old kids that just like memes and that want to go invest coaches? Like it's more like finding the balance of the two. Um, Last two questions here as we wrap up. Like one I always like to ask is like, what's like one lesson if you could go back in time and like speak to the younger George, like what's one lesson you'd give yourself to to yeah, to excel and to crush it?
God, I actually haven't been asked this in absolutely forever. I would probably say, as cliche as it sounds, believe in yourself sooner and take risks sooner. Because I often hear, don't believe in myself, I don't have the confidence, it's a big risk. And it's like, well, yeah, of course it's a big risk. You're out here trying to change your life. You're out here trying to grow a business. You're out here trying to achieve big things and help other people change their life. So I think being willing and accepting of the risk, but also understanding for yourself is that when a lot of people go into coaching, and this could be for somebody's clients going into their coaching, or a coach going into like a mentorship or business coaching or whatever, it's like, what if it doesn't work? What about this? What about this? Of course, your brain's going to focus on the downside. It's going to focus on what could go wrong, but ultimately what could go right. What opportunities lie off the other end of the work you're putting in, of the commitment, of the risk. And I think that if I jumped into that sooner, thankfully, I was someone who invested quite early within my coaching career. I hired my own coach within a year, hired my own mentor within 1.5 years, and 7 years later, I've now worked with lots of coaches and lots of mentors and built up all this information. But yeah, I think for someone kind of like looking to grow, or if I was speaking to my younger self, believe in yourself sooner, back yourself sooner, take risks sooner. Because if you don't believe in yourself and you don't take risks, you won't grow. It really is that simple.
It's exactly what you mentioned as well, as like being delusional a little bit, and I believe in yourself. Where can people
Totally.
find you? So people looking to get better, become better coaches, looking to like really move things forward. Where can people find you to get more of that?
Of course, man. So I'm very different to a lot of kind of like mentors within the space in the sense of I genuinely sit on Instagram a lot. So if you want to find me, the best place to find me is on Instagram at George Lewinski. If you send me a DM, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to get back to you within a few hours. If you've got like a personal question or if you want to voice note me or anything like that, like please do. I absolutely love what I do and I love helping people. So if anyone wants to ask me a question or pick my brains or even drop me a follow, then yeah, on Instagram's the best place. I do have YouTube, I do have TikTok, but Instagram is certainly the best place. And all of my accounts are just George Lewinski. So yeah, feel free to drop me a follow and we'll have a bit of chat.
Amazing. Anyone looking to find out as well, the relevant links for that would be in the description of this. And yeah, George, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you, Plamen. I appreciate it, mate. Cheers.